Welcome back to the FirstGen Healing podcast for a part 2 with Colette, who did a part 1 with us. And I highly, highly recommend you go listen to that first so you can hear her story. And in this part, we're going to talk about something called somatic healing. But I will let Colette introduce herself and then we can get started.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much for having me for part 2. I'm so grateful. Yes, if you heard part 1, I am a documentary filmmaker, and I've been working on this film about healing intergenerational trauma within my family as a Mexican Palestinian American growing up in the suburbs of Chicago. And I am also currently getting my somatic coaching certificate after going through this journey. Also got my yoga teacher training, Zumba teacher training. So just a lot in the body, a lot of somatic healing happening.
That's beautiful. You've opened the door of possibilities, right? Like to what you can do and how you can be help with part of like community healing, which is so needed. So can you tell us a little bit about what somatic healing is for those people that maybe are tuning in and don't know?
Yes. So somatics is a term based off of this term called the soma, which is mind, body, and spirit. And it's actually something that has happened in the Western world is that they're thought of as different distinct components, and yet the soma is actually all interconnected. That mind, body, spirit is all one mechanism that's working together. So if we stay only in the mind in, just trying to talk through things, that we are missing essential components that are also within us in the body and spirit that will allow for our greatest transformation. And so being able to work through the body and with the body to be able to release any patterns or limiting beliefs or things that are no longer serving us as we want to move forward towards who we actually want to be and what we care about in the world.
That's so beautiful. I think something that we talk about on this podcast is that the body has a lot of wisdom.
Totally.
And I love that you're bringing in like, maybe that's not always mentioned to us, right? We go to the doctor and they're just kind of like symptom oriented, right? What are you feeling? Not what are you going through? And then we go to the therapist and it's like, talk to me, right? So it's we typically talk therapy. And so it sounds like some somatic healing, it kind of brings all aspects into consideration when it comes to moving through something. And so what do you think like made you inclined to kind of focus on this, after the journey that we just heard about your story?
Yes. So as I was learning about trauma healing work and working in therapy, that my therapist actually would use a lot of somatic practices, and she had her own certification around somatic experiencing. And that's where I learned that trauma is actually stored in the body. And so the way to process through trauma is through the body. And so being able to learn how to feel where this tightness or where this pain, emotional pain, was actually living, and being able to actually work with it. It was so strange because I never worked in the body before like that. And yet it was profoundly transformational. And so I was like, this is it. I want to learn how to do this, not only for myself now, but to be able to pass it on to others and have it be of service to others as well. So that's my decision of why I decided to do that.
Got it. Okay. So like the kind of how powerful it felt for your own experience. It was like, ooh, I want to share this with others. Okay. And I know you're in the midst of getting your certification, but maybe like, was it what you expected it to be? As maybe you had an idea because like, oh, well, I've done this on myself, right? Or with my therapist. How has it shifted now that you're learning more about it?
So I thought, I was like, so I knew that it was going to be transformational, that I was like, I don't know. I just felt that I was about to embark on this 8-month journey of some really deep inner transformation. And yet I did not realize how much it would unlock a whole new way of being inside of myself, and also learning how to hold space for others in authentic connection. And so I guess I wasn't really expecting the part of it that is so relational and so physical, that touch is also involved in somatic healing work and in somatic coaching, which you don't often find in talk therapy. And so that was
Right.
something surprising and also profound for myself and my transformation.
Ah, interesting. I actually didn't know that because um so I do like a little bit of somatic healing, but it's virtual always. And so like, it's
Okay.
kind of related to the body, but it's virtual.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's actually a touch
Nice.
involved sometimes in person, it sounds like.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
When we're like having authentic connection, we have hand on chest as one of our practices, that we place the hand on the chest of the other and look into each other's eyes and like ask questions to feel that real mutual connection
Wow.
happening, that pressure of support. And then we had another exercise where we had somebody leaning on our back, like we faced each other's back, and just to like feel what it feels like to be supported. And people
Mm.
just like totally, like, melt, crying, all these things of like, wow, holding ourselves up all the time. What does it feel like to actually get to lean on someone physically, literally?
Wow.
Transformational, transformational.
Eee. It even ties to what I had mentioned of like the visualization of, me as a baby, where it's like
Yes,
I learned
yes.
that I felt like I had to hold my own even as a baby. So I can't
Mhm.
imagine like, yeah, somatic healing is kind of healing that sensation of you can lean
Yeah,
physically on other people too and
yeah.
feel safe.
Wow. Yeah,
Wow, that's so beautiful.
so
So
beautiful.
do you learn in group or like is it one to one? What is kind of what you're doing?
Mhm. So it's an 8-month program, and we meet every quarter for 4 days. We have a session up in Petaluma in North Bay. So we're together for 4 days, and we go
Mm.
deeper into learning the practices, having our own somatic openings, reflection, and learning how to coach more deeply. But we have to first like be able to embody the practices and learn them for ourselves before we can teach them out in the world. So they have like both and, which is it's like such a gift, such a gift. And then
Wow.
we have monthly online sessions, and then like practice with our mentor coach as well.
Got it.
Mm.
Okay. So you're also kind of unlocking stuff for you, right? Like as you
There's
Oh
a
my
lot unlocking.
gosh.
I knew it. I knew it was coming for sure.
Yeah. Ooh,
Mhm.
is there maybe one experience, a somatic experience that you feel comfortable sharing with us that you've kind of gone through in this process?
Yeah. So another component that we are also learning about is somatic body work, which is
Okay.
working through the armoring bands in the body. So we have different points in our bodies where we keep pressures of life, and over years, over generations, even not even our own armoring that is
Mm.
is
Mhm.
stuck in the body. Again, intergenerational trauma. And so one of the practices that I did is that I received a somatic bodywork session where they actually went through the various armoring bands throughout the body, and one of them is in the hips. And as I'm sure many of us know, that the hips store a lot of emotions. We've heard that so many times, and yet I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but okay. And during a somatic bodywork session, the practitioner was like rocking on the hips on my left hip, and I don't know what was there, but it was like a full rage catharsis, like all the wounds that all women have gone through of being violated in this area, like it just came pouring out. And it
Wow.
was so beautiful because after that, the practitioner actually held me in her arms as if I was like a fetal, like in a baby position, and
Mm.
just let me like
Mhm.
breathe while she was looking into my eyes and like keeping me, making sure I didn't go off totally off, off the grid with these overwhelming emotions to help ground me. And it was the most profound experience I've ever had in my life. I can easily say that it felt like I was staring into the eyes of like the divine mother. That was the first time I've ever felt safety. And even I get chills even just thinking about it. That like, and after that I feel completely different. Like it was like that was like 10 years of therapy in one somatic bodywork session right there.
Mm.
Of feeling like I am safe.
Wow.
Wow, I'm safe. I have a divine mother that loves me and cares for me. Really powerful.
Does it have like what I'm wondering the soul aspect of it. Like how does
Yes,
that I think you mentioned soul, right? It also
yes,
takes into
spirit.
play so
Mhm,
okay,
mhm.
spirit. So for example, that experience, she holds you, so that's touch, that's somatic. Is there like where does spirit come in or the understanding of spirit in that experience?
Yes. So spirit, of course, it's a very personal journey of like, okay, what is spirituality for each person? And so it could be God, it could be nature, it could be a greater community, it could be Mother Earth, like whatever people believe in, something much higher than just our individual self. And that's what we
Okay.
call spirit in this practice. And so being able to tap into that great unknown, that great mystery of existence, and being able to zoom out from the pressures of life to tap into that spirit is essential for us to be able to do our healing work. And so that
Mm,
came through in that somatic bodywork session. But yeah, it can also come through in nature and just having like loving connection with another person. That's where I find spirit to come through in
mhm.
somatics.
Okay, got it. I'm wondering also, like, um, if I imagine, right, as a practitioner, you're learning about limits and like, because I feel like sometimes when we're going through our healing and awakening, we get in this mode where it's like, I want to uncover it all and just like work through it all and get over it all so I can move forward. And we
Yes.
then, unfortunately recognize there's layers upon layers upon layers, and there isn't really an end per se because life is always happening and we're always, on this cycle. So maybe can you talk about that aspect through the lens of somatics?
Yes. So we actually have a practice in this coaching program that's called extension, where we stand with our hand out and another person grabs our hand. And so we practice what it feels like to be in overextension, and we reaching while the other person's pulling back. And we have the experience of collapsing under pressure where it's like, okay, this is too much. And then
Mm,
we center, which is a practice that I'd love to share with you all, where we center. And then once we have that grounding, reaching while being in center, and like understanding where it is in the body when we are over capacity and we are overextended
mm,
for our longings, versus what is like actually right
wow.
size for us. And so that has really helped to be like, oh, yep, I'm feeling the burnout exhaustion coming in. Like, oh, I'm doing too much. Okay. And I feel it now in my
Mm,
body, like, what that feels like when I'm putting too much pressure
yeah.
forward. Hmm.
Ooh, interesting. That sounds like so important because I think, as fellow first gens, like there's a recalibration that needs to happen because a lot of us are used to overextend as our like
Totally,
default mode, right?
totally,
And so when we
totally.
start to heal, it's like really hard to deprogram from that and feel like enough and feel like we're safe in being less. Don't you
Mhm.
think? Like, oh, I think like, yeah, I
So
experience
hard.
it, not only as with myself, but as other people. Like when people start to step into their authenticity,
Mhm.
I always tell them it doesn't mean being more all the time. Sometimes it means being less.
Totally.
Um, alignment, abundance doesn't mean like moreness. Sometimes it means less too, like abundance of time by doing less, abundance of energy by taking on less. So I imagine there has to be like a recalibration period to relearn what is overextending, right? Versus
Mhm.
not, versus center, as you're saying.
Yes. And so yeah, one of the main components of this coaching program is, okay, so there's three. There's somatic awareness, somatic practices, and then somatic opening. That's like the cycle that you go on as you do your
Mm,
somatic healing work. That
mm-hmm.
starting to build the awareness that, oh wait, I didn't even know I was overextended, and how do I have the awareness of when I'm overextended. And once you have that awareness, then actually having practices to allow you to create a new shape, a new way of being. And there's a
Ooh,
there's 300 reps to get to muscle memory, so 300 reps of practice that are needed before you can even start to take that new shape,
wow.
and then
Mm-hmm.
3,000 reps to get to embodiment. So there's
Mm,
a it's a it's not an easy solution, and yet because it's been generations literally of how we've been conditioned into it. So it's
yeah.
a learning about the importance of practice is really important to feel like, oh, I'm not failing at this either when you're on your healing journey.
Oh,
One
I
learning
love
overextension.
that. Yeah, it puts things into perspective because definitely I think like we want to just one and done our healing sometimes, right? And we get frustrated when patterns repeat or we find ourselves in similar situations. So it's like there's a repetition that leads to
Mhm.
embodiment, not just like, oh, I'm embodied. Yeah, like let's go.
Like, right. That's like a
Yeah.
shift completely. Yes, it
Mm,
takes time.
I would love for you, yeah, for you to walk us through that. And I think I'm gonna, that practice is gonna be exclusive for the Sol Primas
Okay,
members.
awesome.
So we'll do that at the end. But
Mhm.
before we do that, I want to ask, I know that, part of what you're doing alongside the film is offerings like these. So as you're going through the certification, maybe like, do you want to talk about what you see for yourself? Like, what does this look like for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you envision yourself doing with once you're certified?
So I definitely feel like storytelling has been so essential in the process of healing and still wanting to make sure that the stories get out there. And yet, because I've done so much trauma healing work, that I really want to go into this space fully in my next chapter. And so I
Okay.
am in the process of creating a new community called Coco Sanctuary, which is all around doing this healing work in collective. And so having
Mm.
somatic coaching, having group workshops around somatic healing, Zumba as joy practice, having dance as a joy practice
Wow.
is really great. And like more meditation, yoga, those kinds of things that allow us to come back into our bodies. And so that's something
Mm.
I'm really excited about and wanting to cultivate, and healing circles and that kind of thing. And then the workshops as part of Traces of Home are sort of that incubator for that next chapter. So having these
Ah, okay.
workshops across the US and internationally for people to be able to tap into their own walls and where they're not being able to find home within themselves through the body to do that work
Mhm.
too.
That's exciting. Okay. So it sounds like you're seeding your next chapter as you're wrapping up
Yes,
this one.
yes. Oh,
Wow.
that's what it feels like. Mm, yeah.
How exciting. I think like when people talk about alignment, it's like following your joy and following your truth, and I feel like, or it sounds like you're doing that for yourself. Like
Thank
you
you.
are moving from one thing, right? That was like your life for a bit, for years,
Yeah.
almost 10 years, I think.
Mhm, mhm.
And allowing yourself to open up into group work. Ah.
Yeah, so excited. It's just like, yeah, so powerful. And it's so needed that like we did our first pilot workshop in New York in November. And
Mhm.
many people had never experienced that before of like having this level of vulnerability in a group. And they're like, wow, I didn't even
Mm.
know I needed that. Like this is
Yeah.
so important to have these spaces to practice, having safe space to practice. How do we be an authentic connection together?
Yeah.
That's it's world changing. World
Oof.
changing work. Mhm.
Yeah. I can't
Mhm.
imagine. Do you see it as being an intergenerational space, like multiple, different generations coming together?
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. My mom actually joined in on that
Oh,
workshop, and it was
yeah.
so it was actually really amazing to have her there. And also my nephew came and he was 5, and so we had like play practice and he was with it totally, And so
Yeah.
having that intergenerational component would be absolutely incredible for sure.
Wow. That sounds
Mhm.
so cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. I want
Mhm.
to ask one last question before we do the
Yes.
practice for the Sol
Mhm.
Primas. We've mentioned intergenerational trauma, and one thing that I don't think we've talked about is like, how does that actually live in the body, right? Because, like,
Mhm.
okay, maybe an intergenerational cycle of alcoholism. Well, I grew up seeing my dad be an alcoholic, so now I cope with alcohol. But what does that look like within the body where maybe you mentioned your hip, that my hip
Right.
stores trauma that I didn't maybe experience but my mom did, or my grandma? Like, what does that mean, and can you give us a little background
Yeah.
about that?
Yes. So there is a term called conditioned tendencies. So when we are under pressure, we can take conditioned tendencies of how we show up in the world. So that can be either like a towards stance, an away stance, or an against stance, where it's like, yeah, in
Mm.
this like nervous system, dysregulated type of being. And these conditioned tendencies can come up from things that are not even our own trauma, that again, that they are stored within us because of what has happened in past generations. And so, for example, like us appeasing to people, or the people pleasing and trying to gain validation, that could come from, right, like our own parents having to do that with their parents who were abusive, or something, that it literally gets passed down epigenetically into our own form.
Mm,
um
mhm,
that of
mhm,
course we can learn it in our own upbringing, but that there are things that are not ours that we are carrying as well, that are
mm.
conditioned tendencies that are now up to us to break as well, for all the
I
generations.
see.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think of a like posture sometime, maybe posture that is like almost inherited without
Totally,
recognizing. Or,
totally.
like when babies are sleeping and they sleep the same as daddy or mommy, right? And it's
Right.
looked at as cute. And it is cute, but I'm sure maybe that's also information, right? Of like, that's how their body maybe holds tension in a certain area without
Totally.
consciously doing it. It's already subconsciously kind of
Wow.
doing that, right?
Yes, 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 exact. You got it for sure.
Mm.
It's
That's so
unbelievable.
interesting.
It's so fast.
Yeah.
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 Really
I'm so
something.
glad like that's becoming something that's more known, and that more people are willing to hold space in that way. Cause I think, like you said, it's like world changing. I think so too. I think
Yes.
so many
Yes.
bodies need, this experience. So can you mention one more time your socials where people can find you and maybe where these workshops will be like announced, things like that. So those
Yes.
listening can stay tuned for that.
Yes. Well, we really want to partner with local community orgs. So if people know of folks that want to do this kind of work and would want to bring a screening to their community, we would love to do that. So it would be at tracesofhome.com. And then my own personal, where I'm starting to build this community, is Coco's Sanctuary, Coco's.sanctuary on
Was that
Instagram.
sanctuary? Got it.
Mm.
Okay. That's such a cool
Yes.
name. It's so aligned. I knew your Instagram handle, but now that I know the background, that's so cool.
Uh-huh,
Coco
uh-huh.
Sanctuary.
Thank
Aw,
you. Thank
I
you.
love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming back for a part two. We're going to go record the 5 to 10 minute practice. You'll walk us through a somatic practice. If you guys are listening and you're like, I want to do that, then make sure you check out Sol Primas, where there's exclusive content, practices. We do a monthly hangout too. So feel free to check that out. But other than that, Colette, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on,
you. Thank
for the
you.
work that you're doing. Thank you. Thank you.